tornado warning on this storm near Hawkesbury, heading towards the north end of Montreal. Still some pretty impressive rotation. Again, just heading out over the Ottawa River, and then it will be into Quebec.
Yeah, and we'll continue to keep you up to speed with that. I just want to show you this again. For those of you that are joining us on the live stream and you weren't with us on the television feed earlier, the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning. The watch is when the conditions are favorable for the development of the severe storms, and there could be packed within there 1 or 2 tornadoes. This is where you formulate a plan, pay close attention, keep the weather network on, stay with us because we are live and we're going second by second tracking this for warnings in your area. Please start charging up your cell phones if you have not already done so. The warning is when you get away from the television, and advice that we have been given over the years is to turn the volume up as loud as it can go so you can at least still hear what we're saying, unless you're following us on the live stream. Then you can turn everything off and head down into the basement. Wherever you happen to go, or if you're in a condo, you want to find yourself in a bathroom or a closet, anywhere where there's no windows. And Kevin, we always talk about bringing, a mattress, into the tub or pillows or something like that. And no, it's not so you can stay comfy cozy. It's to protect yourself from debris, because in the event that something hits, there will be a lot of debris, and a cushion of some sort will protect you.
Yeah, and mattresses are pretty heavy now, but yeah,
True.
Things falling down on you.
You don't want to carry a Posturepedic, I'm sure, but I get it.
Yeah, that memory foam will keep you safe. But yeah, Chris, we're still also worrying about the hail associated with these storms. So I want to correct myself. I did say there was nickel and quarter-size hail in Scarborough. There's actually loony and toonie-size hail. So it doesn't seem like much of a difference, but when you're experiencing that, it can certainly make a difference. And that is still going to be our focus as we move forward. But here is some of that hail, Chris.
We're going to go to Pickering for this, and this is, again, we're on that 401, and we're sliding out exactly where you said we're on our way to. You hit Pickering, then there's a whole lot of 401 before you get to Cobourg, and this is what you would call pea-sized hail. More than anything in Pickering, it was the heavy amounts of rain and a lot of reports of strong gusty winds as this front came barreling through, but that is the nature of a frontal passage.
Yeah, we're going to have the strong winds with the storms. Over 100 kilometers an hour is possible. But I was just looking at Pearson. Pearson didn't see a thunderstorm, and their temperature is starting to come down. They were up at 33 degrees, but they're now seeing wind gusts over 60 kilometers per hour. So that is what's going to be sweeping out this air mass, and will be much more comfortable for the next few days.
Oh, and that's what everybody hopes for. And that's the balance, especially when you get across the lower Great Lakes, where these storms are. Is once that cold front sweeps down and it drags itself across the Great Lakes, it has the chance to cool down and make it a cooler, drier air mass, both of which are optimal. And that's the frontal passage right there, Kevin. Describe what's going on ahead of it, though.
Yeah, so well out ahead of it, over towards Montreal, you see some of those brighter whites. Those are prefrontal storms. Those are aided by the motion of that cold front, but they're really just tapping on all that energy in the Ottawa Valley out ahead of it. But then back towards the Toronto, Bancroft, Petawawa, that line, that is all being triggered by this cooler, drier, denser air just shoveling underneath that heat and humidity. And that's why you get that long line that sparks up through the afternoon. And that's the line that Mark Robinson is out chasing.
Yeah, Mark Robinson, this is sort of some of the image that we have been getting from him. He has his dash cam on, and every once in a while it will freeze, which it just did there just now. But one of the things, Kevin, that we always look at is underneath that cloud deck that we were just looking at, that's your rain curtain. That's the rain actually sweeping across the region, which is at times a really awesome thing to see.
Yeah, and you can also, it's not your eyes playing a trick on you. There is a little bit of a green tinge to that.
Yes.
That is a sign that there is hail in there. It's not a sign, you can't depict the size of the hail, but if you are seeing a green tinge, that's just how the air is, or the light is refracting through the storm. And if you see green, that is a sign that there's going to be hail in there.
Great point, fantastic point. And that is what is happening through areas pushing I wouldn't call there East Ontario, that's just east of Toronto, but as we get deeper into Eastern Ontario, the damage that will be caused will be by the loony and toonie sized hail, and of course not the least of which being the damage that would certainly be caused by tornadoes. Let's go back to Uxbridge from a little bit earlier, and this was the cloud formation in obviously a time lapse as it was moving over the region.
Yeah, right along the top of the Oak Ridges Moraine. Usually top end doesn't really get the worst of the storms, but this year for Uxbridge, you've I don't know if I can't say you've lucked out, but you've definitely gotten the brunt of a few lines of storms, and that is all associated with the cold front. So that's the tail end. So Uxbridge, you're now in the clear. You aren't going to be worrying about these storms continuing for you through the evening. This is one model's depiction of the potential for hail as we move through. So all the way from southern Quebec through eastern Ontario and well stateside, we will have that hail threat, and that comes with the strong winds. And Chris, I was just looking at the watches and warnings even stateside. We have tornado watches through Quebec, Ontario, much of New York State, and all of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It doesn't stop until you get down to West Virginia. So this is a very long cold front, lots of heat to be tapping into here.
Good stuff. Hey, we have, if you're not following us if you're on television, your feed will be interrupted by commercials, regularly scheduled commercials. Switch over to our live Twitter feed, our live social media feeds. I'm tracking what we're up to on Twitter. And we also have Mark Robinson, who is out, and he has a tendency to post live when he can, straight from his dash cam. And as the warnings continue to change, especially for those of you that are in a warning area, this may be your only way to be able to stay on top of this second by second update, is by taking your cell phone or your tablet that is fully charged, it better be, into a safe area, and you can follow along with us and also follow along with everybody else who's involved in this storm as it progresses. Let's go back to that tornado watch and warning, and just an update, Kevin, on who is in it right now.
Yeah, so we'll start with the watch, Chris. This is, again, like you're saying, this is all the ingredients is in the kitchen, ready to be put together, but hasn't started yet. Ottawa, you're in it. Montreal, right on the cusp, but you'll have to pay attention. And then anywhere down towards the St. Lawrence River. But the warnings we have right now, this means it's already happening. The damage is, or the risk is imminent. Cobourg, Belleville, up towards Callader, Highway 7, the 401, both impacted by this. And then again, we're still also watching heading just into the north end of Montreal. I know this is the F1 weekend, so there's a lot of action out on the streets in Montreal. Hopefully this will stay north of the island. This should be more of a Mirabel and Laval situation more than downtown Montreal, but this will definitely still be impacting hundreds of thousands of people, Chris. And we did just get a picture coming in here of the damage from a reported touchdown in Brooklyn, which is out near Oshawa. This was the earlier version of the storm that's currently tornado warned in Cobourg. So we have some fence damage there, Chris.
Yeah, property damage looks like it's down there. Of course, Environment Canada will be quick to survey that to see whether or not that was tornado or straight line wind. Because a lot of times you can tell by especially when we've known this an awful lot. That's what EC does, is they go out, and if they're depending on the pattern or the shape that the damage takes, we'll be able to tell you what caused that. I want to go to this right now. Cheryl Smith sent this in a little earlier. I'm going to push play on it. She shot this video and sent it into us from St. Catharines. Remember, once again, we're not even at 3:30 in the afternoon in St. Catharines, and this was shot earlier because she obviously had to upload it and get it to us. That's how dark it was. And that, again, Kevin, plays part and parcel into that satellite and radar overlay that you were showing us of that line as it sweeps south and still has some business to do in the Niagara region.
Yeah, I will have to apologize to everyone in Niagara. We haven't been giving you much attention here, but yeah, south of Lake Ontario, you are seeing the bottom end of this line starting to develop. These storms are kind of like a zipper. They're going to start towards the north, and then over the span of 2 or 3 hours, they'll just start to pop up as they head down to the southwest over the span of the afternoon. So we did have a couple storms develop between Brantford and Hamilton. A couple strong ones stayed out over the lake, but watch from Hamilton, Stony Creek, and then right over to St. Catharines. That would have been quite the line coming into Niagara on the lake. I'll look to see if we can find any wind gusts there, but that's all now going to head stateside, so that's now Western New York's situation, but we do have just that latest scan. We did get a severe thunderstorm warning popping up for St. Catharines and Beamsville. Again, if you're in Beamsville, even St. Catharines, you're now not going to have to worry about this. This is just the region that encompasses Niagara on the Lake. Niagara on the Lake is going to be the only area really impacted by this storm. And then you can see stateside there, I was mentioning the tornado watches. You can see all the way from central Quebec all the way down to almost down to Washington, D.C. This threat is, and you can see that next line of storms, Akron and well south of Lake Erie. We don't have to worry about those. We have enough to worry about on our side of the border, Chris.
Thanks a lot for that update, Kevin. I believe we have Mark Robinson on the line. Mark, your live dash cam is up and going, and I mean, it was. Mark, you there? This is what live television is all about. Is what live streaming is all about. Kids are sitting out there going, "What's television? I don't get it. What are you talking about?" While we're waiting for that, can we just show this image here? Sylvia, Kevin, you were talking about the loony and toonie size hail. Sylvia sent this to us. Sylvia K sent this to us on the Weather Network's Twitter feed, and there's the toonie off to the right, and there are your ice chunks off to the left, and this one right there is looking a little bit bigger than that. So, Kevin, we're getting up to those ping pong and approaching, and I'm going to dare say this one up here, see that one I'm showing you? And you spent a lot of time on fairways, Kevin McKay. That's almost golf ball size hail, I'm going to say.
Yeah, we're getting there. I'd say that's closer to a golf ball than a toonie, but yeah,
that would be.
I believe this is testing my golf knowledge, but I believe a golf ball is it the cup that's, the ball's 2 inches or the cup's 2?
The ball, the ball's 2 inches.
The ball's 2 inches, so the cup's 4 inches.
4 inches, exactly.
I think it's twice the width. But nonetheless,
yes,
that hail, that is, even for Ontario, that is getting towards the top end of our scale, and definitely more than you want to be caught outside having to experience.
Especially when you get this one that, I don't know, I believe we're still up on this one, this jaggedy one over here. Again, as these super cooled water droplets, not to get all meteorological on you, but that's what we're here for, continue to fall through the atmosphere, they have the potential to congeal with other hailstones. And what this jagged one is a lot of pea-sized hails that have frozen together in the descent, hitting critical velocity before it actually hits the earth. And it has that really sort of mangled, gnarly look to it that looks like it could do an awful lot more damage than these nice round ones. All right, Kevin, hail potential continues to move along with the tornado threat. This was earlier today in Ontario. This was only pea-sized hail.
Yeah, this one, it's more so the winds that look to be the concern. And remember, of course, everyone remembers the derecho a few weeks ago, but now these trees are definitely in full foliage, so there is a little more resistance in those leaves. So even if some of those trees survive the derecho, we could be seeing some more damage with this one. Here's a look at us moving forward. So through the evening, again, our attention's over towards Ottawa. By 8 o'clock, that's when Montreal is going to be seeing the worst of it. And then as we head into sunset, that's when the eastern townships, Quebec City, will start to see the remnants of those storms. We'll likely see the tornado threat wane by that time, but we'll still be looking at the strong winds as the storms start to die out. And then back towards the GTA, you see even the cloud starts to move out, and they'll be not too bad as we head into our Friday.
I want to go quickly before we go to what we were talking about. I just want to go to this image I have on Twitter. Take a look at this. This was sent to us by Chris Knox in just north of Cobourg. So, Kevin, this is the storm that we're talking about within that tornado threat. And this is where sometimes when you get into these remote areas, we need people like Chris Knox and Chris Knox Photography to take these images and let us know is what we would call a storm spotter. And they play a really important role. Here's a story on that with Tyler Hamilton.
I know this is a little bit mesmerizing, watching a radar scan the environment for potential severe weather. Let's dive right in and look at a hypothetical situation, and I'm going to talk about some of the drawbacks using radar. So we've switched it over to velocity. Watch the scan come through right overhead. That's the hint. We need to know what's going on in the lowest levels of the atmosphere. You guessed it. That's where the storm spotter, storm chaser comes into play. A very dangerous job. You need a lot of training. There's a lot at stake when you're tracking the lowest levels of the atmosphere. It can be incredibly dangerous, but that job is really paramount in helping meteorologists figure out what is going on. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a quiz here. Where do you think the radar beam's extent is in this storm? How low does it go? What are we uncovering? Well, the radar generally samples the highest parts of a storm. It shows that rotation aloft, but that storm spotter on the ground can relay really vital information to meteorologists and emergency management officials if a tornado situation, a tornado emergency, for example, is ongoing. So they're a vital part of the weather community. Really respect the storm spotter.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot for that. Now, the storm spotter is completely different from a storm chaser or a storm hunter. A spotter is somebody like anybody that watches the Weather Network who is outside and happens to take an image and is somebody that can feed the information as to what we're seeing when we don't have that kind of coverage. And Kevin, you said it yourself earlier when you were showing the hail spread, and you said that was coming from a Buffalo radar. Well, there's only so far north that Buffalo radar will cover. So if hail is happening outside of that perimeter, we're not going to get coverage of it. That's where the storm spotter comes in.
Yeah, just a little insight on that radar situation, Chris. Yeah, this is our Buffalo radar. So yeah, the outer edge of this up towards Renfrew, it won't pick up on the storms any further than that. So you have to go to a different radar. So right now we have a Buffalo radar, we have a Burlington, Vermont radar, we have one near Ottawa, we have one near Montreal, and they all offer, for the most part, the same features, but the ones over near Montreal are really becoming useful right now because this storm that we've been mentioning that's been crossing the border into the Montreal area, it has hung a right turn. So as we pull up towards that rotation, there you go, just as we cross over into the border, but watch it over the next 20 minutes. It hangs a right, heads southeast, and now we're getting into the Dorval, Montreal area. This is going to be the highly populated area. As we head towards the commute time, that rotation is heading towards the south, so it's not going to stay to the north of the city. It's still not tornado warned, but this is a very impactful storm.
Oh, tremendously impactful storm. And as you were mentioning, it's not just, the tornadoes obviously speak for themselves, but it's the wind with this as well, because there's only so much damage that pea-sized hail will do. But if you get a 60 to 100 kilometer per hour wind gust, that can do damage. That can knock a fence down. If you have trees with budding foliage on it and you have a lot of rain and then you have a strong breeze, well, then you can have limb damage, and that will cause a lot of problems if it falls over onto a power line. Now, you've had this up for a second. When you get to these pinks and then you get into the black, okay, now I used to describe these all the time. Because you're here, why don't I let you describe them?
Yeah, so this is all being detected by our radar. This is actually our Burlington, Vermont radar. So once you get into those purples and blacks, that is either torrential rain or it's picking up on some hail, which appears mathematically as torrential rainfall. So the other thing to note, Chris, when you're talking about the distance from the radar center, so when we go back to our velocity here, you can see that green butted up right against the red. So if it's green, that means it's moving towards the radar. If it's red, that means it's moving away from the radar. And when you have them right up beside each other, that's a sign that it's going in circular fashion. And when you're closer to the radar, this is relatively close to Burlington. That means that scan that's going out from the radar is still relatively low. So when you're getting signs of rotation relatively close to the actual radar, that's a sign that that's a low-level rotation, and it will be it's beyond the point of maybe a funnel cloud, and you're getting it lowering towards the surface.
Interesting point, and it's amazing that we have this kind of technology that, although it comes up from the United States, is still just far enough over our border. Again, that also speaks to the Great Lakes, is we have such a density of population surrounding the Great Lakes, and a lot of this active weather that we see all the time is isolated to stateside. But every so often they will break the plain and they'll make their way up into Ontario and Quebec and points just a little bit further east of that. So we've been talking a lot about the tornado warning, and I'm going to get Kevin to update us on that in just a quick second where it is. But we also still have severe thunderstorm warnings that are in place. Now remember, within a severe thunderstorm warning, there is always the potential of embedded rotation, as Kevin's been talking about, and therein lies the threat of tornadic activity. We also have a very wide, and I mean wide, spread area under a tornado watch. Kevin.
Yeah, so the good news, those two tornado warnings around the Belleville area, they have been dropped. The severe thunderstorm warning still is in place. So that still encompasses the strong winds, this larger hail, and the potential for it to start rotating again, especially when you're within, say, 30, 40 kilometers of Lake Ontario. Yes, it's June, but the lake is still relatively cold. So when the air is this hot, you can get a lake breeze coming off the lake, and when the storm approaches and runs into that little bit of a lake breeze, it can be just enough to start to rotate the storm again. So we're still going to have to watch that storm as it heads towards Kingston and Napanee. Now back to the Montreal storm. Again, we still don't have a tornado warning on it, but in the severe thunderstorm warning, they are now mentioning the possibility for baseball-sized hail, Chris.
Baseball-sized hail is going to do damage. That is where you will find, as I mentioned, a storm chaser's car coming back looking like the surface of the moon. I'm going to just quickly zip through a few things here on Twitter. We did have, there it is right there. I just want to grab this. Here we go. So if we can pull this up now. There we go. Baseball size. We're getting up to the top of the scale now, Kevin. Top of the scale, 7.5 centimeters in diameter. That is one of the largest that you are going to find as far as hail size and severity. Yes, certainly they do get up in the States to grapefruit-sized hail. I've done a few episodes on the podcast This Day in Weather History talking about the largest hailstones ever in history. You can always look those up on your own time. But yeah, you are into severe. You notice how some of these have, they've got nickel, dime, penny, or p, penny size, whatever. But then on top it's severe. You get into severe thunderstorms providing severe sized hail, and damage will be caused by baseball. Baseball will cause bodily harm to you as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen baseball in a warning for Ontario or Quebec. You do see it a handful of times in Saskatchewan and Alberta, where you have different dynamics, but in Eastern Canada, this is definitely noteworthy, and especially when it's heading into a metropolitan area of, I believe it's upwards around 4 or 5 million people. This will be, again, this isn't, they aren't saying this is occurring. This is just the potential to produce hail this large. But if you're showing the potential for baseball, that means you can probably say your loony-toony golf ball are occurring. So this will be pretty damaging to, well, thousands of vehicles. And I do recall, I don't know how many years ago, Chris, but when Calgary, they had their big hail event, it was catastrophic, and one of the most costly events in Canadian weather history. It
was the most expensive hailstorm in the history of Canada. I also did an episode on that on the podcast this day in weather history. Hey, we just hope that we don't get up to softball size, because that just starts to get ridiculous. And one of the things we were talking about with with super cooled water droplets, and then the size and the height, the density of a cloud formation, one of those super power-sized cumulonimbus clouds, you get that tower. And within that tower, you would have to have an incredible amount of updraft to be able to hold what would possibly be larger than a melon of ice and just keep dropping it up, popping it up, popping it up. Like if you've ever been to a bingo hall, when you see the balls bouncing around inside the little dome thing there. And then eventually, when it becomes too much to handle, it drops. And through critical velocity or terminal velocity, it melts and melts and melts because of a lot of the friction. So for it to hit the ground as a baseball, can you imagine how large it was up inside one of those towering cumulus clouds?
Yeah, that's a very good point. When you look at these storms, they look like a giant head of cauliflower, and they don't look like they're really changing much. But within that storm, it is just a conveyor belt of hailstones going up and then coming back down and then going back up again, kind of like a pitching machine. And as long as that updraft is strong enough to support that hailstone and push it back up, it'll keep growing. It's once that updraft either cuts off or the stone becomes too big.
That's right.
Then it just comes down. And if you get both happening at the same time, that's when you can have probably the worst case scenario of a lot of large hail.
Mark Robinson has seen more than his fair share of hailstorms. He'll be the first to tell you that. Let's go to Mark Robinson right now with this story.
One of the most destructive aspects in thunderstorms, and one of the more spectacular, is hail. Now, it can range from size from all the way down at pea-sized, all the way up to softballs. Jeez! Oh, okay.
Hail is a form of solid precipitation consisting of ice formed in thunderstorm updrafts and ranges in diameter from about 5 millimeters to 200 millimeters. Depending on the size of the hail, it can cause damage to crops, livestock, buildings, cars, and if you're not careful, you. For hail to form, the ideal cloud must be full of both supercooled water and water vapor. During intense updrafting winds, water droplets get carried towards the top of the cloud. The cold air freezes the droplets into tiny hailstones that are still light enough to be held up at this point. As the stone passes through areas of water vapor and supercooled water within the thunderstorm, different layers of ice build up. This is why if you compare a hailstone to a chunk of ice from your freezer, you'll see that the difference is the layers. The freezer ice won't have any. The stronger the updraft, the longer the growing hailstone will stay within the cloud, building up those layers. Eventually, it will fall. Hail can be a danger at almost any size, but it really depends on how much of it there is. If you have very small hail, but lots and lots of it, it will shred crops and do damage to growing plants. When hail gets beyond about golf ball size, serious damage can occur. Hail is one of Canada's most expensive hazards. Take a look at the damage caused by a massive hailstorm in Calgary in June of 2020. That hailstorm ended up costing $1.2 billion in insurance claims, and it only lasted 20 minutes. So how destructive can hail really get? I've got this old vehicle, my buddy George Karunas, to show you.
And Mother Nature isn't so good at putting hail exactly where we want it, so we've got our own. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, here's a big one. Oh! Ah! The largest hailstone ever recorded was in Bangladesh, and it was 1 kilogram. This one that I made at home is 1.2 kilograms.
So just a little bit bigger than the maximum that we've ever had. Can you imagine the updraft though to hold this up?
Yeah, that's the part that always blows my mind, is that all these hailstones are held up in the air by wind.
Yeah.
Like, how much wind? A lot.
You know, I'm amazed how well this car held up to that ice barrage.
Yeah, me too. The glass actually was a lot stronger than I was expecting it to be. So, you know, seek shelter if you can, but you're kind of safe in your car?
Kind of.
Kind of.
It's likely that at some point you are going to encounter hail. But as we know, Mother Nature doesn't like to play by the rules, which means that any situation in which you get hail, you could get damage.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot for that story, Mark Robinson. Hey, Mark, are you on the line here? That's Mark Robinson, who's driving, and he's in Belleville. So that's what he is driving through right now. The rain is torrential and is making it very difficult. You can see how the visibility is just, aside from the fact that the screen is frozen, you can see just how bad the visibility is when driving. Because again, we are only looking at 3:45 in the afternoon. The sun doesn't set until after 9:30. So by rights, we should have close to 6 more hours of sunlight, Kevin, and that looks like it. That looks like close to dusk. Oh, there's some sound. Mark, can you hear us? Is Mark Robinson picking us up?
I can hear you, Chris. It's really bad center of this storm.
Good, excellent. I'm just going to let you go. Tell us what it's been like. Go for it.
You know what, Chris? It's center of this storm is it's almost no visibility. But earlier these storms were pretty because I did see a tornado near the tornado warned storm out towards Belleville and past. Yeah, nasty situation out here.
All right, thanks a lot for that. We're going to see if we can maybe get a cleaner feed on that. That unfortunately is what happens when you are working with, and that, again, that is another testament to have your cell phones charged up and do the best you can, because when you have this kind of storm over top of you, it can create interference, again, with cellular transmission, and that's what we're experiencing now. Kevin, let's go back to that satellite radar that I can see you prepping up there, and just so we can show everybody who would be affected by this, who's next, and what they can expect.
Yeah, Chris, so again, our tornado warnings, they have come to an end, but we still have very strong storms. The severe thunderstorm warnings are continuing. We do have this little line back south of Hamilton. That's the most western point of our storms right now. We aren't too worried about those. They aren't even severe thunderstorm warned. But Belleville, that's the storm that he's driving through right now. Belleville's seeing the worst of it right now. Trenton, Brighton, you're in the clear. Napanee will be next, and then it'll be on towards Kingston. When we jump over to our Burlington, Vermont radar, that is our best representation for the Montreal storm. And Chris, you were asking about 10-15 minutes ago, what is the purple and the dark, almost the black, what is it indicative of? Well, that is that hail potential, and they are saying the chance for baseball-sized hail in the north side of Montreal.
Yeah, normally we, again, in the 16 and a half years I've been here, you get into those deep dark purples, and the black almost looks like it was an anomaly, or maybe, you know, a piece of data that's not coming through, but that should be taken very, very seriously. The purple is enough to send shivers up and down the spine of anybody who's in that area. You get into that black, and that's what you're talking about, where it has been mentioned. It has not been promised, but it has been mentioned that hail could get up as big as the size of baseballs, which would be 7.5 centimeters in diameter.
Yeah, and again, when you're like you're saying, when you're talking about the yellows and the reds, that's just really heavy rain. That's going to ruin your day. It's going to get you really wet.
Yeah.
But when you're getting to the purples and the black and hail that size, that will be life-threatening if you are caught outside. Yeah. So this is, no matter what, it doesn't matter at this point whether the storm is rotating or not. Get inside. This is one of the worst storms I've seen over the last few years heading towards Montreal.
Wow, and that is saying something. That is saying a lot. So that is this story we will continue to follow. Kevin and I have not seen a tornado warning as yet issued. You were showing where there was the risk of rotation there earlier. Maybe Kevin, if you could find that velocity product again, just to update us as to where that there it is right there. Can we bring that? There it is right there. Can you update us as to what you're looking at now? So how has that progressed?
Yeah, so another piece of good news is that rotation isn't quite as organized. I do see a little bit of indications for the north side of the island up towards Laval, but that isn't, that's not indicative. I'm not expecting that to spawn a tornado warning in the next couple of minutes. But with the next scan, these are sending out scans every couple of minutes.
Right.
With the next scan, it could, this is just down to a matter of minutes. We could see better development, but we could also see it weaken. Just like that reflectivity, which is showing the precipitation rate there. You can see that's what we're talking about with the black and the purple. But as it's heading towards Montreal, our latest scan, it's a little less organized. So that's a good sign as it's heading onto the actual island right now.
Very good. And again, my friends, this is why you stay with us when we have these live streams, is because this is the only place that you're going to have people who are going to be talking to you live as this continues to progress. So no matter where you happen to be picking us up on, thanks for staying with us. If you are in an area that has severe thunderstorm warnings still in play, we would advise you to have your cell phones charged, because if you're watching us between television and maybe here, there may be a point where you lose power, and the only way that you are going to be able to stay live to find out what's happening or what could happen next is by your cell phone, which I still contest is the greatest invention since the airplane. It was the cell phone. All right, let's go to some of the areas that saw this activity earlier today. This out of metropolitan Toronto. And Kevin, two things, again, that we were talking about, and that was not just the heavy rain, but it was also the strong gusty wind.
Yeah, and unlike the derecho where basically everyone saw the wind, you had no way of escaping it, this time the wind is more so associated with the storm. So it's going to be harder to get the actual max wind gusts. For instance, right now I'm looking at Trenton. We have to rely on airports right now for the wind gusts. So Trenton Airport is reporting gusts over 70 kilometers an hour, but that's not to say that a kilometer north you don't have gusts of 100 kilometers an hour. So we're definitely going to have widespread gusts over 100 kilometers an hour, but they are going to be localized with the strongest storms.
And that was just some of the scenes that we were watching from earlier today. The good news is a lot of what we just saw are areas that are out of the worst of it. And we're now going to start seeing from west to east this progression, slow albeit, but a progression of a cooler and drier air mass funneling in behind this cold front. And a lot of what makes it feel a lot cooler than it is because it is drier, and that's because you have knocked out the humidity. The humidity is what your skin will actually translate as what the actual temperature is, but it is not a temperature. It is a rating in comparison to the actual base temperature itself, which is where we had earlier today in Toronto, 33, feeling closer to 38. When that cold front goes through, that 33 will go down likely into the mid-20s, but there'll be no humidity, making it feel actually cooler than the actual drop itself. All right, so I'm giving everybody the good news here. Kevin, what sort of staying power does this line of storms have? Is this something that will continue to pound its way through the St. Lawrence and potentially into New Brunswick? Or are we looking at this just pulling up stakes based on time or based on geography before it moves any further east outside of the eastern townships?
Well, the storm as a whole, the actual center of the storm is well up into Hudson Bay. We're always talking about a low over Hudson Bay, it seems like. And storms like this, they kind of take a nap through the night once they lose the energy, but the cold front is still progressing. So if we want to see what it's going to be like tomorrow, again, this evening it's going to be Ottawa, Montreal, into the eastern townships. But if we want to see what we're going to be in store for tomorrow, I'm just going to pull up one of our future models here to try to track it out here. In terms of New Brunswick is certainly no stranger to strong storms because they do get all this heat and humidity as well. But you can see that line really dies out through the overnight, and then we'll start to see it spark up again through early morning into the early afternoon, right through the central Maritime. So we will start to see another development of storms in Atlantic Canada tomorrow. But also look back towards southern Quebec here, Chris. This is another line of trailing storms for central Quebec and northeastern Ontario tomorrow. Not going to be severe, but one interesting thing here is right around 11 p.m. midnight. You see that line there, and you can see it showing up in the cloud as well. That is kind of a secondary cold front, Chris, and right now that is up well into northern Ontario. If I pull out here, I'm going to show you the towns where it's currently in to give it some perspective here. So I want to talk about Timmins, Kapuskasing, and Hearst right now. That is where the line is, and to put it in perspective, right now Timmins is 27 degrees, Kapuskasing is 24 degrees, while Hearst is already down to 18 degrees with no humidity. So that is going to be what really breaks it through the overnight and will be much fresher for tomorrow, and then even fresher for the weekend. We're going to be down into the teens in Toronto for the weekend.
Okay, well, it was good until that.
We need a happy medium, Chris.
Yeah, well, that 15 is not. 15 is now dropping below the medium. Okay, listen to this for a second. All right. So that is larger than pea-sized hail. Now we were probably seeing in places, I'm going to dare say that was dime to possibly as big as nickel-sized hail. No, there's no hail there. Oh, but there's the hail that accumulated. This was earlier today in Toronto.
Yeah, and you see all the leaves shredded there. So it's actually really impressive that when you have the hail accumulating like that through valleys or on the sides of roads or your drainage pipes, and then once the storm passes through, and if you get the sun to come out, Chris, you can actually get really localized fog over top of the ice there. So when it's still humid in behind the storm, and then you have this super cold ice, it's quite a phenomenon. So we might be lucky enough to get some videos of that in the next couple of hours.
That would be very, very cool. That's the wonderment of weather. As we continue to follow these storms, we did have, if you're just joining us on the live feed, our live stream, wherever you happen to be following us, be it on Twitter or wherever. Kevin and I, Chris May here, Kevin Yard. Remember those days?
That's a throwback.
Wow, where did I go for that? Kevin McKay over here. My goodness. Whoo! Any evidence I've been here a long time? Anyhow, we've been following where there once were tornado warnings. Kevin, you were talking about how the tornado warnings have now all come to an end, but that's not to say that they can't refire back up, because again, we're still only at 5 minutes to 4 Eastern time, and there was still a lot, A, of heat and humidity out ahead of that front, and B, and you're going to show that line in a second, and B, tornado watches that also are out ahead within that warm sector.
Yeah, that's right, Chris Murphy. We still we still have the tornado watches out ahead of where we've had the warnings. So Ottawa, Montreal, you're still in the focus for that watch.
That was get everybody in the newsroom here laughing about that one. So that's our tornado watch that we still have. Again, we encourage you to stay with us. If you have been, thank you. And if you have been on either your cell phone or your tablet or whatever, I would encourage you, if you've been doing it for a while, to plug it in, because if you are in one of these areas where there is a tornado watch, if it quickly turns to a warning, that's when you're going to have to leave your television. And your cell phone or your tablet may be the only thing, or your laptop may be the only thing that where you can get the information that you need. So please have those charged up, especially if you are in a severe thunderstorm warning area or a tornado watch area. Doing like that. 3D theater now. Didn't know I was going to come back there. So Kevin, one of the areas, and I know we're just, only because we have to mention it, that we're looking at is the very densely populated, second biggest populated city in the country of Canada. That would be Montreal. And we have a real ominous cluster of mess that is looking to like a very powerful cell that is looking to go bullseye right through the metropolitan.
Yeah, I'd want to measure this first just to see how wide this storm is. Just the core of it is about 25 kilometers wide. So that is pretty impressive. Not to say that that's going to be the width of the hail swath, but this is basically locked right over the center of Montreal. And don't quote me on this, Chris, you might know better, but I believe it's this island in the middle of the river where the F1 race is. So that purple and those darker blacks, that is heading right towards the island where there's a lot of events going on outside right now. So I hope they have enough infrastructure there to shelter the thousands of people that are out enjoying Formula One week.
Yeah, one of our morning producers, Jordan Caprice, is on his way out there, so he doesn't want to see this.
Ooh, it's echoing back in my ear.
Look who we got. All right, Mark Robinson, our storm chaser, storm hunter. Mark, we were showing a segment with you and George Karunas intentionally destroying your neighbor's car with hailstones, and it's good to see that you got released from that. Hey, how are things where you are right now?
Actually, Chris, not bad. I mean, you can kind of see the storms have gone way, way ahead of me. They were moving at about 100 to 120 kilometers an hour. So I tried to keep up with them and then just gave up. Decided to stop here in Belleville. I did have a tornado earlier today in Brooklyn, so that was, that was surprising. But of course, right at the wrong moment, all my cameras failed. So I do have part of the tornado, but not all of it. And that's just, welcome to how it works for me. But now, these were dangerous storms, very, very, very fast-moving storms, and this is part of it. I was on the 401. People were slowed down as driving through that rain, so that was good to see. We got a little tiny bit of hail in there, not a lot, but it was that visual that that you lose as you get into those just downpours on the cores of the storms. But of course, they're moving so fast that if you're moving at 100 kilometers an hour, you're just in the rain and you can't get out. So the best thing to do is slow way down or just wait, and then the storm will pass if you are headed eastbound. If you're headed westbound, you'll be through it pretty quick.
Hey, Mark, I got to ask a question. You're standing out, short sleeves. What are the conditions still like there? Is there still a level of humidity? Are you still technically within the warm sector? It's obvious that the temperature change has not affected you yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the mosquito sector at this point. But there's so many mosquitoes right now. But yeah, it's definitely humid, but there is a difference. I can really feel a big difference in the air mass. A little, it's very humid, but it's definitely cooled down. I mean, we're talking about 34 degrees earlier today. Part of that is the cold pool, the cold air left after the storms, and part of that is the front itself. So combine the two of them, and we're looking at an absolutely beautiful weekend after what was a somewhat dangerous day today, especially if you were east of the 400 and the 404.
So, Mark, Kevin McKay, meteorologist here today, he was showing a cell that is, and you may want to get in your car and drive as fast as you can. I'm just kidding. Don't drive fast. Don't do it. Don't do it again, is what I mean to say. But this cell is in the Environment Canada issued warning. They have stated, and tell me if you've heard this or when the last time it was you heard this around the lower Great Lakes, potential for hail as large as baseballs. Baseball-size hail.
I don't think I've ever...
For metropolitan Montreal.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but that is not good. When you put those hailstorms across an occupied area like that, like just with that density of population, people could easily get injured. That size, I wear a helmet, and I'm not going to pull it out right now because it's just far too geeky. But I wear a helmet for golf ball hail. I've been hit by golf balls, and it left giant bruises on my shoulders. So you wouldn't want to definitely be in shelter if you've got anything like that going through Montreal.
Yeah, certainly. What are your plans now? Where are you off to next?
I'm going to go find some food, I think is my next plan, unfortunately.
Are you happy, or was that a mosquito?
Fast that was a mosquito. There's like a cloud of them around me right now. They're just all trying to bite me at once. And that's so typical after this. And we're going to have to watch what happens. As we, all this rain, lots of standing water, there's going to be some mosquitoes coming out going, yay, blood. So, yeah, that's going to be the issue right now. So at this point, it's time to maybe turn around, head back home. I may go up to Brooklyn to check out the damage there just to see how much damage has been done in and around the town.
Hey, and I applaud you too. Thank you. Hey, we're all clapping here in the newsroom. Hey, I mean, why not? Hey, Mark, do us a favor. If you're in Brooklyn and you get the opportunity to, and we do have a signal, let us know because we'd love to bring you back on.
Yeah, sure, I will. Yeah, I'll definitely turn around. It shouldn't take me too long to get back there because I won't drive too fast. There you go, Chris. So
Yeah,
be
thank
safe.
you. That's my fatherly tip to you. There you go. All right, Kevin, that was a lot of fun. Mark Robinson, always a good time on television. That guy's he's one of a kind. But he did drive through some really powerful storm activity. But now I want you to explain to the people, if you could, what he meant by, like, what is it in the dynamics of a storm that would cause a storm to overtake traffic and fire off ahead of it that fast? There has to be a lot of upper atmospheric pull and velocity as well, because it's not just our surface layer. We have several layers.
Yeah, usually when you have the storms along a cold front like this, the cold front will be under strong winds aloft, and that's kind of it's kind of dragging these storms along, picking up
so
steam.
stay here.
While
Here.
we also have lake breeze storms in southern Ontario, and that happens when we don't have any winds aloft, and that's when you get the afternoon convection around London and Orangeville, that you get the storms that pop up and they really just sit over the same area. So those are kind of the two major storm categories with a big implication difference. And I want to look at the radar here. So there's a storm that's just moved through Belleville, Chris, and it's not very impressive on this radar. That's because Belleville's kind of in a no man's land for radar. We're just leaving the Buffalo range and we're just getting into that Montreal and Burlington, Vermont range.
I got you, okay.
Over the next 20 minutes or so, once it gets towards Kingston, we're going to have a better scan on that storm. It's still going to be a lot stronger than it's showing on this radar, but it'll more so be like these storms over towards Cornwall and all of Montreal. Metro Montreal, we got to keep an eye on that Twitter feed to see. We should be getting a whole lot of photos and posts talking about the damage going on there.
Hey, I'm on it. I'm on our. If you do have pictures, video, do send it to the Weather Network's Twitter feed. I'm still looking at the tweet that's been pinned to the top, the strangest thing anyone's ever seen on a beach. So, okay. If you do have that, do post those photos because we'd love to see what's happening in your area, especially if you are in metropolitan Montreal. Because as Kevin, you were talking earlier, even if you don't see baseball-size hail, and we certainly hope you don't, of course, but you may still have loony to toony, ping pong, maybe golf ball size hail, all of which, as Mark attested to earlier, can cause bodily harm. And as Kevin has talked about, will do structural damage to homes, siding, the windows, and of course trees.
And car hoods.
And which?
Car hoods.
Yes, and car hoods. Certainly a lot of car hoods taking a lot of damage with that. So if you are still in a severe thunderstorm warning area, stay alert and stay with us on our live stream that continues ongoing. If you are with us on television and you're wondering why suddenly we are, because normally we're really good ending a segment right before we go to a commercial break, and today you're like, are you off your game? No, it's because this is a live stream that just continues uninterrupted for 2 hours, and you're popping in on the television side, which is equally as beneficial, so stay with us. But if you'd like to switch back and forth to your cell phones, tablets, or desktops or laptops, I think I've covered them all, then please do that as well.
Chris, I want to do a little bit of an explainer on something I just noticed on this Montreal storm. So we've been tracking the main one, but this whole cluster, this is one strong storm. And Mark was talking about the outflow winds, that cold air that flows out from the storms. It shoots down towards the surface and then outwards. So this storm is shooting out some cold, dense air towards the south. Now look at this little guy down back into far eastern Ontario. Keep an eye on that guy and look at the time. This is 3:40, and then over the next, that's 5 minutes later, look at the size of that storm. And then over the span of 20 minutes, it is now just as big and joining that main storm. So that shows you the depletion of one storm can actually be the fuel and the trigger for another storm. So that is what sparked that storm, and it's just adding to this cluster right over Montreal.
About earlier, and that is we still have a trailing cold front that is up to the north and slightly to the west that's going to move in and sweep in behind that. Is that what they would call is that a second low all unto its own, or is that what is the eddy or the wraparound lift within what was a very strong, significant surface feature?
Well, these are all these fronts are kind of like spokes on the wheel. So this is our beautiful satellite showing the cloud, and then unfortunately the center of our low is out of the range of that. But that's where the center of the low is.
Okay.
And there's our front that swoops all the way down back, well, it goes all the way into central Kansas. But you see these rings of clouds back over Lake Superior. Those are going to be that's the next spoke around the wheel that's going to be pulling in just another wave of cold air. So if it's strong enough and it gets down low enough, that will be a cold front. If it stays elevated, that will just be our little trough like we're seeing back towards across the prairies.
Yeah.
They've had all these storms the last few days. Now it's into us. But that, and then, well, you can just keep going on with all this surface analysis, Chris. But there's our high pressure over Great Slave Lake, and that's what's helping to drive all that cold air in behind all this humidity. But you look at all the energy, it is all the way from the Gulf states where down in, I was looking at New Orleans, Chris, humidex of 47.
Oh, come on.
So
oh, man.
it makes our 38, 39 seem not quite as unbearable. But yeah, we are just in this narrow little wedge of significant energy. And that's why, since it's so narrow, that's why we're only really seeing this one-day event of the significant heat for Southern Ontario.
And I think a lot of people would be very happy and grateful to know that that would just be a one-day event. A lot of pets too. You get to pets want to go out and run and play and stuff, but if they're sweating by the time they get outside, then that's no fun either. This is also, again, more reminders to people to, be mindful and not moronic, and don't leave pets in a car when it is hot and humid. I've been saying that forever, and especially don't leave people in cars, the extremely old or young. Right. So, without that was emphatic. Without tornado warnings, really to chew on here, we're still watching the tornado watches, which means, of course, do stay with us, because those at the drop of a note could become a warning, and that's what happens. So stay with us. When it becomes a warning, Kevin and I will let you know immediately, and of course, Alert Ready will likely let you know of that as well. I'm sure they will. And keeping in mind that if the closer we get to Montreal, we're also still watching some severe thunderstorm warnings that have the potential for some damaging hail. And we've been watching these storms progress all day long, anywhere from southwest Ontario through the Greater Toronto area, and now we're focusing on southeast Ontario.
Yeah, we're definitely focusing on southeastern Ontario for the next few hours. Again, the tornado watch, no warnings right now, like you said, but the tornado watch is all the way from north end of Montreal, Ottawa, down towards Kingston. The warnings that we've seen haven't been in that region. This is all still to come. But again, I just want to go back to the GTA cropping that we have. Again, this is Buffalo's radar. It's not quite as useful as it was now that the worst of the storms are moving through. But look at that line that's really sparked up south of Hamilton. They're stronger storms. We're not looking at any signs of hail in there or really strong winds, but that's going to be quite an impactful line right from St. Catharines, Welland, and Niagara Falls. I
want to ask you this. How much of that has to do with lake breeze convergence potentially? When you were talking about a cooler, drier air mass coming out ahead or coming out behind, and still that soupy air mass out ahead, might that be associated with any sort of lake breeze, or are you seeing that in model data?
Well, you definitely have to watch for that, but things I'm noticing with it is it's still in line with that line of storms in eastern Ontario, and they're moving at the same speed. So, and with it being elongated there, that's showing that it's the same mechanisms triggering those storms. So those are still going to be frontal storms, not quite our slow-moving storms that really spark up along lake breezes that more so bring just a flooding risk.
So we're looking at more spokes in the wheels is what we're looking at. That's just a spoke, and out ahead of that that's going down through the States is another spoke. Just playing along the same narrative that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that line out ahead, that goes all the way down into southern Ohio. But look at that tornado watch, all the way down to southern Pennsylvania.
My goodness.
All the way up to central Quebec. So we're not the only ones keeping an eye on these storms. There's millions of people stateside that have their eye on it. But yeah, right now, the GTA, that's one population center, not too worried about it. Your risk has come and gone. Our attention is now on Montreal for the time being, but we're still going to have to keep an eye on that line as they approach Ottawa in the next couple of hours.
Okay, just because I want to take a selfish moment here. I got a tweet from a Robert Beaulieu. Goes by the handle, don't show it because there's too many other things here. JRFan1980, 32 minutes ago, said, I'm enjoying your description of the weather today. Meteorological talk is interesting. Remember earlier I was apologizing for it? So thank you, Robert. I do appreciate that. Henry Garcia says, watching live is meteorologist Kevin McKay and Chris May. The schlep off to the side. Track the severe thunderstorm. I'm kidding. Targeting parts of eastern Ontario and southern Quebec, and a lot of people seem to be following that as well with us. And I'm just spying on our live feed, and I got to tell you, the delay between us being actually live and it going to Twitter, it's really quite impressive. So if you are watching us on television and you are in any of these watch or warning areas, it would behoove you, a word I learned from my dad a long time ago, it would behoove you to have a powered up cell phone, tablet, laptop, that sort of thing. Anything that you can go wireless with, so in the event that you lose power, you can stay with us and follow the live stream. Now, Kevin, when Mark was talking about a storm that moves so fast that it overtakes him and shoots off further east, he said traveling at about 120 kilometers per hour, the potential for power outages is certainly there, correct?
Yeah, for sure. So that's not to say that a storm moving that fast will have winds at the surface that strong. It just means the driving winds in the mid and upper levels are moving that fast. So the good news when storms are moving that fast is it lowers your risk of the flooding, because even though it's torrential rain, it'll come and go in the span of 10 minutes. And it'll come with strong winds, but not necessarily 100 plus kilometers per hour, just like this in Toronto earlier.
Yeah, this is an example of that. It moved through Toronto, it moved through quickly. They got a heavy amount of rain. They didn't get that flooding rain because of how fast it moved, and that is a really important point. It's when you have these lows that move in and they plod along and at sometimes stall. That's when you would have a heavier rain for a prolonged period of time. But these storms are moving. They're moving fast. They're still continuing. There's Dundas from earlier today, Dundas, Ontario, the valley town. And these continue in toward the St. Lawrence and beyond there. And now let's take another quick look at that. Now that this has been updated, the severe thunderstorm watch has been turned to a warning, and that does include all of metropolitan Montreal. And it looks as though the center of that cell that we've been watching with a lot of interest is sitting right over top of it.
Yeah, it is right over downtown Montreal right now. So probably the next 10 to 15 minutes will be the most impactful for downtown Montreal. I just want to switch over, Chris, so bear with me for a minute. I want to try to see, we have a way of looking at the radar-derived rainfall. So I want to see if any of these are putting down any drastic amounts of rainfall. So when we first started looking at this storm, when it started rotating near Hawkesbury, that's where it looks like the heaviest rain was. So I can just try to put a little measurement there. So that's 2.7 inches. So yeah, you're already looking at about 60 to 70 millimeters of rainfall just in a narrow band. So this isn't very widespread, but out towards the leading edge of this storm, those blues will quickly turn to greens and maybe some yellows for Montreal.
Yeah, and that just means that we are looking at a much heavier amount of rain over the island city, split in two, and which is your new Montreal and your old Montreal. And you were correct, that little island that's off to the side, that is where the F1 race will be held, which is one of the premier events. It's the first time it's been here since the COVID pandemic began. So there's a lot of people, and as I mentioned earlier, one of our producers here, Jordan Caprice, is on his way there, I believe right now, because he wants to be a part of that action. I think it's going to be cool. But I would imagine that because this tours the world, they have a contingency plan. This looks like a very serious storm that is moving into an area that does have a very dense population center. And as I was asking earlier, it looks as though this is going to very easily cross the St. Lawrence and make its way into the eastern townships or cross the river rather, into the Ottawa River, into the eastern townships, and make its way to possibly New Brunswick. It really, again, Kevin, as we were talking, depends on how much lift is still left and also the timing of it. Is there enough daytime heating to support this as the hours tick on?
There's definitely enough daytime heating to fuel it for the next 5 hours or so. You can see actually the severe thunderstorm watches have just been extended to the eastern townships, Sherbrooke and up to Victoriaville.
Yeah.
So that is a sign that there's nothing that's going to be slowing down this storm now. Once it gets into the eastern townships, it's kind of like a bowl. It has the Adirondacks to the south, it has the Laurentians to the north. There's no big bodies of water to supply any cold air, so you just get a lot of hot, stagnant air filling in that valley. So that, for the next couple of hours, it's going to be feeding on all of that. So let's have a look at the energy. So we talked about the CAPE. That's our convective available potential energy. So that's the food that these storms had to feed on. So in the eastern townships, we don't have the dark red and burgundies in place, but those oranges over the next hour or so will turn to some reds. So we'll likely see it continue to fuel for the next couple of hours. But then once it gets into Maine, you get the elevation. We're going to be losing the daytime heating, so we're likely going to see the storms die out by the time it gets to Maine. Definitely by the time it gets to New Brunswick through the overnight.
I just want to bring this to our attention. As I was talking to you about power outages, and oh my goodness, our good friend Dave Sills, it was retweeted by the Weather Network, has just sent this to us. Let me just back this up just a tiny bit. He said, storm-related power outages from Hydro 1 looks like Rice Lake to Belleville was the hardest hit, 20,000 customers without power. This is a bigger look at the overall map, and this takes everybody into consideration from the GTA out towards Gananoque and into the Ottawa Valley. So I want to thank Dave Sills for chiming in and giving us an opportunity to catch up with that power outage. About 20,000 customers without power. This brought to us from, it looks like, the Hydro 1 site, and Dave Sills sent that to us.
Just when they thought they could catch their breath after restoring all the power from the derecho, put their feet up and, hey,
And
right back at
kaboom,
it again.
we're into it again. Yes, but again, this is that season where we have these. We're still in the springtime. We're working toward the summer solstice. That's not until the third week of July. So we still have that lingering battle between the cooler to colder northern polar air and that soupy air mass that's just billowing and billowing and billowing coming up from the south. And we affectionately call it the spring. So. Yes, we have this special feature. Just remind me again what the special feature is we're getting to. All right, so there's likely frequent lightning that is affiliated with that. It might even look like this. So we're going to go to the science behind lightning with Mark Robinson.
Lightning is dangerous. It can start fires. It can destroy trees, cut power to huge areas of cities. And at worst, it can kill people or livestock.
Okay.
Lightning is the single biggest danger in storms.
And then I'm done at 5.
As fascinating as it is deadly. Lightning is a naturally occurring electrostatic discharge during which two electrically charged regions in the atmosphere or ground temporarily equalize themselves, causing the instantaneous release of as much as 1 gigajoule of energy. That's enough energy to power your house for almost 9 days. Lightning is created by the separation of charges within the cloud by the movement of ice crystals and graupel.
When graupel particles collide, they produce smaller ice crystals. Graupel particles tend to accumulate a negative charge while the ice crystals accumulate a positive charge. Because the ice crystals are more easily blown upwards in the storm, they tend to collect up on the top of the storm while the graupel particles are in the bottom. And that separation of charges, well, nature wants to balance that out. That balancing act is what you see when we talk about lightning.
What you see in the sky is the exact same thing as what happens when you get an electric shock from touching a doorknob, just on a much larger scale. Things can get dangerous when it strikes the ground. How does that happen? This is going to get very complicated. First, charges separate in the clouds. Then, a channel of negative charge comes out of the bottom of the cloud towards the ground, a stepped leader. These often split, creating a tree-like pattern. The stepped leader induces positive charge channels to rise from tall objects and the ground. When the two channels connect, a massive movement of electrons begins. There's a large drop in resistance along the entire channel, and the negatively charged electrons travel down the conduit to the ground. The electrons can travel at 1/3 the speed of light. The electrons then travel away from the strike point in every direction and cause huge voltage differences in short areas, called step potentials. These cause more deaths than anything else in the lightning stroke. Electricity can travel up one leg, across the heart, and down the other, creating heart attacks in victims.
So when it comes to lightning safety, what's your best bet? Well, we have a saying, when thunder roars, go indoors. And if you can't go indoors, you can jump in the car. Now, are you safe in the car? Yes, you are. You're actually really safe from the lightning. But is it the rubber tires? No, it's not the rubber tires. See, the lightning just jumped, whoa, just like that, from that cloud down, no problem. It can have no issue whatsoever jumping from here down to the ground. So what it actually is the Faraday cage effect. It's the metal skin around your car that prevents the lightning from hitting you inside your car. So you don't want to be standing outside when the lightning is going.
Thank you so much for that, Mark Robinson. Great stuff. Mark has seen, again, more lightning strikes than most of us will ever forget that we've even seen. He has made his way as far as Belleville, and I believe that he is on his way back now. He's going to make a quick stop in Brooklyn, where there was the potential that there was a tornado. It hasn't been confirmed. That's not confirmed until Environment Canada says it was confirmed. The feds have to do that. But meteorologist Kevin McKay has stepped aside. He's got a long night ahead of him. He's got a long night. He's going to be on likely a little bit later with Kim McDonald when we pick back up the live feed. I have about 35 minutes left in this live stream, and I'm going to turn things, I'm going to welcome to the program meteorologist Melinda Singh. Melinda, thanks for tagging in. We're going to need that microphone on. So, while we do that, maybe put her map up. There it is. I'll explain what we're looking at here. So what we have been watching is the tornado warning that was in is now not in, and that was around Cobourg and pushing even further east. We have a front that is now through the States that has widespread severe thunderstorm watches, and where we're still watching the tail end of this front that goes down from southeast Ontario through Smith Falls. You see Ottawa, Brockville, Kingston, and along the shores of Lake Ontario. We still have severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, but Melinda, within that warm sector, we still have tornado watches. We still have tornado watches. So we are the furthest thing from out of trouble, even though the warnings are currently not in place.
Not too sure if you can hear me now, Chris. You got me here?
I can barely hear you.
Oh, not too sure what's going on there. We do have a tornado warning.
Oh, tornado warning just got dropped in.
Yep, just trying to get it here for you so you could see. There we go.
There, we can hear you now. There we go.
There we go.
And I was just mentioning Kingston, and here it is.
Yep, so tornado warning. I'm just going to pull up the warning as well from Environment Canada, so we have the latest details. Alrighty, so Kingston, Odessa, and Frontenac Islands. Correct me if I've said any of those wrongs. Environment Canada has issued the tornado warning. Damaging winds, large hail, and intense locally rainfall is possible with this, Chris.
All right, so we're back into tornado warnings. And this is one of the things that when Kevin was with us, we were talking about. We are the furthest thing from away from daytime heating. There's still an awful lot of energy, a lot of juice still left. And we mentioned to you earlier, if you are in a watch, you're watching the television. It's simple to remember that part. That's the easy part. If it's a warning, you're not watching television. You're going someplace safe. And I've been telling you for the past 90 minutes anyway to please have your cell phone, your tablet, or your laptop plugged in, because if you lose power, and there is a very real chance that you will lose power, your only lifeline to news will be your wireless device. So please bear that in mind. Is that just an anomaly, Melinda, that
Nope,
it
I'm just
dropped?
fixing this right as we speak.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Just don't want to confuse the people. So there we go. We have Kingston, just east of Napanee, pushing into, again, Anakwe. But we also, and you mentioned that we also had tornado warnings on the Quebec side as well.
Let's just pull that map up. Here we go, just getting a bit organized here.
Okay.
I believe we're just looking at watches as of right now.
Okay.
No warning. This is the only warning for Ontario and Quebec, which would be the one in Kingston.
Okay. And you also mentioned Odessa as well.
Yes.
So north and west of that. Good. Okay. Great. We did
Actually, I'm wrong here. I see one just popped up as well.
There we are.
There we go. There's the second one.
And that is in Mont-Laurier.
Yes, just east of
Just
there.
east of Mont-Laurier. Okay.
Yeah, moving very quickly, so might be seeing more areas added to that very shortly as well.
Very good. Thanks for the update. This is, again, one of the things we've been talking about. The storms are very fast moving, which is certainly good news. But if you are in a tornado warning, find yourself a basement as fast as you can. Or if you, there it is. Thanks a lot for that, Melinda. If you are in a lot of people are living in condos, or they're living in buildings. So you want to find an interior room that has no access to a window, because with a tornado there's such a pressure drop that the windows have the tendency to implode. That would be to blow into you. So a washroom or a closet are two optimal places, and make sure that you're covered with something that can protect you from falling debris. So Melinda, what I was going to ask you now is, with this line of storms, can you just zero back in again on what was going on in Montreal? Because Montreal, I believe, was still, when we last looked, in a severe thunderstorm warning. And I just want to see if that has progressed over into the eastern townships where severe thunderstorm watch, and they have. There we go. That's what I wanted to get caught
So they're
up
now
on.
in the warning. I believe the one just north of Kingston as well has added the area of Tamsworth as well
Okay.
for the tornado warning.
Boy, you take a look at this, at just how powerful and dense the cells are. The one that goes through Montreal and the one that goes through Kingston. There's just so much happening there. And another thing you must remember is when we take a look at those bright lights of white, those are lightning strikes, and these are hundreds of lightning strikes that are taking place in one small area within that cell. That shows you just how volatile each of these cells are. And we're looking at the two, one over Kingston and one over Montreal, although Montreal to this point has nothing outside of the potential for large hail and heavy amounts of rain and strong, potentially gusty, damaging wind.
Exactly, Chris. I am going to try to find the velocity map here for us so we
Yeah.
could take a look at the rotation within that storm. Having a bit of trouble finding it here, but I'll just go right. Oh, here we go. Here we are. I'll just have to. There we go. Perfect. So, looking at the storm, where is Kingston? Here we are. Let's play this through. There we go. A bit hard to see on this particular map here, but when we look at radar, like Kevin mentioned earlier, looking at those greens and those reds very close together, which indicates a bit of rotation. Not much rotation throughout Montreal, the Laval area. That's the good news. Still looking at those strong, heavy downpours, potential for some hail as well. Let's take a look at this one up north as well. Not really much seeing, just seeing a little bit there within a little bit of red there, if we can pause it there slightly, just in that one east of Mont-Laurier.
Oh, I
Chris.
saw that. Okay, I caught that just at the tail end. Well played. Thank you so much. So we still have out ahead of this. You see, and if we could just hold on that. This is the mess we're looking at. Is we have severe thunderstorm warnings. There's everywhere, this whole swath from southeast Ontario all the way through central and southern Quebec, and then pushing into the eastern townships, widespread severe thunderstorm watches. But we also have over top of that the warnings, and on top of that we have the tornado watches, and on top of that in a couple of areas just outside of Mont-Laurier and pushing into Kingston, the tornado warnings, all happening in one time.
Yeah, Chris, looks like the ones just north of Kingston, throughout Montreal, they're becoming a bit more organized. So definitely becoming more of a supercell in nature. The one just north of, east of Mont-Laurier there, a little bit more smaller in nature compared to the size of the ones throughout Kingston and Montreal, but not depending on the size, can also produce quite a bit of hail and strong winds, and once again a tornado. That's why EC has issued that tornado warning, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just going to zoom. If we can go to this quick thing that I have here that I picked up off Twitter and that we posted. So these are the areas that are in the tornado warning right now. The good news is that this is in, forgive me, it is in a remote area. So damage would likely be very, very localized. But again, stay away from windows, glass doors, go to the basement, the lowest point in the building, or an area inside if you're in a building. A lot of people live in buildings. And stay with us. Please have your cell phones and tablets charged. That's all I say to that. And the only reason I wanted to show this is because, Melinda, you just finished bringing us an update to Kingston. And those are really the two areas where we still have tornado warnings in play.
Exactly, Chris. Especially if you're in a tornado-warned area, it's best to go into the middle of your house or your apartment, especially a room that does not have
there it is.
Yeah, perfect. Any windows. That's the best place to go and protect yourself from a potential tornado.
Yep, top floors again do not protect you. Being anywhere near a window is a hazard. In, like we've been saying, the interior room or a basement, those are the areas where you're going to be best covered. And as we mentioned earlier, the pillows, a mattress, anything, big heavy winter coats. You don't need your winter coats now. Heavy winter coats, anything that can protect you from the potential of falling debris or flying debris, for that matter. All right, so tornado warnings once again, Melinda. Bring it on up again. Let's take a look at where those are so we can get people who may just be joining us on the top stories of this minute.
Yes, for sure, Chris. So areas including Kingston, just slightly north of it as well, and east of Mont-Laurier in Quebec.
Excellent, excellent so far. Excellent news that you're with us watching this. Once again, if you're watching us on television, we will break periodically for commercials, but Melinda and I, just like Kevin and I, for the 90 minutes prior to that, we are continued uninterrupted, like in radio, commercial free. And you can catch us with our live stream wherever you happen to be watching us right now. I'm following along just to check out how we are being received on Twitter. If you have photos, videos, please tweet at us at the Weather Network, and if you have photos that you'd like to upload, you can always upload them to our website as well. So, and there has been a lot of activity. I see that you have another radar that's up with the watches and warnings that are overlaid, and this is our Niagara region. We've been talking a lot about this, even though the thrust of this activity is southeast Ontario. We still have active weather, Melinda, in areas around the shores where Lakes Erie and Lake Ontario come together.
Yeah, Chris, we're basically looking at such a long cold front here. I'll just give you a quick look at what this looks like currently. So it spans all the way from northern Quebec into the mid-plains, and this cold front is basically triggering all of that heat and humidity that we continue to build. Here's a quick look at our current conditions as well across southern Ontario. Temperatures 32 in Toronto, 33 in Windsor, but we know that humidity value is into the high 30s there, Chris.
Yeah, they were for many areas. And we are hopefully going to see a lot of that start to drop. A lot of people are not really into the oppressive heat and humidity. Areas to further north Ontario, and as we get deeper across we get further west in Ontario as well, we're starting to already see the effects of dropping temperatures, cooling air, but that is not the case yet for areas as you can see here, still in the 30s in southwest Ontario along the shores of Lakes Erie and Ontario, and that is because we still have that front pushing through, and anything out ahead of that would be considered within the warm sector. And where is it picking up all of that instability, heat, humidity? You guessed it, the Gulf of Mexico. So, and because Kevin and I were looking at this earlier, that front digs all the way down and touches, there it is right there. Where does it go there? It goes all the way down to New Orleans, or into just north of Louisiana. So all of that Gulf moisture is getting dug up and is finding its way into that into the cold front. And thank you, the relative humidity. Out ahead of that, we have that area of dry slop, but that is out in the Atlantic. Anywhere that is over our mainland, that's the humidity. That is the trigger mechanism for these strong thunderstorms when you throw a catalyst like a cold front in, right, Melinda?
Exactly, Chris. It's just one of the ingredients that we need for severe thunderstorms at the most, but that cold front is the main trigger in terms of building that severe criteria in terms of the severe storms. The humidity helps definitely to create those updrafts, bigger storms, supercell-like storms, right? So we're going to continue to see those persist as we head in through portions of our afternoon. We still have tornado watches in place across eastern Ontario and southern Quebec, as well as tornado warnings as well. Areas north of Kingston. I'm just gonna see if Environment Canada has updated there, looking at a hazard of a tornado and Toonie-sized hail, Chris. This is a thunderstorm capable of producing tornado, which is located near Kepler, moving east at 75 kilometers per hour.
Great update, thanks for that. Stay with us. We still have 20 minutes left in our live stream, and there is the potential that we are going to have a second live stream that is going to pick things up at 7:30 Eastern tonight, and that would of course be with Kim McDonald. So this is the tornado warning that continues in place, the severe thunderstorm warning that stays in place. This is, again, the definition of a severe thunderstorm warning: wind gusts of 90 kilometers or greater, hail of 2 centimeters, and that would be your, what would that be again? The 2 centimeters would be your quarter-sized hail, I suppose, or maybe, no, ping-pong-sized hail, or larger in diameter. Heavy rain, as per the warning criteria. And the reason there's an asterisk over that is depending on where you are, you have a different criteria, because some areas are just known for rain and others are not.
Exactly, Chris. Here's also the definition between tornado watch and tornado warning. Many areas, eastern Ontario and southern Quebec, are in a tornado watch. That means that conditions are favorable for the development of severe storms with the potential for tornadoes. And we do have tornado watch warnings already in place across eastern Ontario and Quebec as well. So that means that either a tornado has been reported or that there is clear evidence on radar that that storm is rotating.
Yeah, just got a note here from Alex Todd saying, quick video of rotating wall cloud that spun up a brief weak tornado north of Brooklyn, caused some relatively minor damage. So that's just a replay of what Mark Robinson was looking at earlier. Just a reminder, Mark Robinson is on his way back. He said he may even be stopping by in Brooklyn just to likely catch up with Environment Canada if they're there to survey the damage area. So we'll look forward to the potential of that, Melinda. So get us caught up to speed. Where is the storm right now? What is it doing? Who is it doing it to? And how much longer can we expect this to last for the areas that are being affected right now?
Yes, Chris. So currently I'm showing you areas in yellow, looking at a severe thunderstorm watch. The GTA is merely out of it. The more severe stuff we are looking at is those areas highlighted in that orangey brown, which is a tornado watch across eastern Ontario, including Kingston, Ottawa, Bancroft, portions of southern Quebec as well. And we do also have tornado warnings in place as well. So we're bringing up our tornado warning graphic here. So areas east of Mont Laurier are looking at, including La Belle as well, a tornado warning. So it looks like they're seeing a bit of rotation on radar to indicate that, and as well as in Kingston and areas to the north as well, looking at the potential right there for a tornado. Just going to bring up the radar really quickly here as well so we can take a quicker look at the storms. Alrighty, zoom in here. Here we go. So there is two cells. Looks like it kind of conjoined a bit. It became a bit more organized there. Copious amounts of lightning, over 100, maybe even 1,000 lightning strikes just on one thunderstorm there, Chris. And that's the one that is producing a bit of a tornado. You can kind of see a bit of a hook signature. That's what we look at on radar to indicate a tornado.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Just again, we have been live streaming, and we are coming into our final 15 minutes of this for this particular segment. I have been mentioning, for those of you that are just joining us, and we have somebody who's on Twitter right now who may have just joined us, saying that Melinda was just about to tell us where the tornado warning was until it cut out and went to commercial. I think you guys might want to at least time the live stream so you can cut to the last word. Just a reminder for those of you that are just joining us, and I believe this person was just joining us at that moment. Welcome back. For those of you that just came off the commercial break, this is a live stream. The live stream is an uninterrupted feed that you can find on social medias that include Twitter. So this is going to continue uninterrupted online, but we still have a commercial grid that we have to satisfy, and unfortunately there's only one feed. So the only way that we can do this efficiently is to stay live consistently and continue, as I have been doing for the past 2 hours, encourage you to also have us on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop computer. So in the event that it does cut to commercial, then you can pick things up on your wireless device. But there's just Melinda and me and a lot of people on the World Wide Web, where if we were to break for commercial would wonder, what are you doing? So that's how live streams work. That's just live stream 101 for those of you that are wondering, or maybe just joining us and haven't yet grasped the concept. So having said that, we are back from a commercial break, and thank you for bringing that to attention, because it gives me the opportunity to explain it once again. Tornado warnings still in place. Pay attention. We have one in northern Quebec, and we still have the one in southeast Ontario.
It looks like the one just north of Kingston has dropped the tornado warning, Chris. So we just have one for, oh my gosh, please excuse me if I do not pronounce this correctly, La Mineviere and Rouge River area. So that is where the current tornado warning is, just east of Mont Laurier, Chris.
I want to thank John Morris, who was watching that diatribe of mine just now and said, great work, Chris, loving the stream. Thank you so much, John Morris on Twitter. Do appreciate that. Right, and you did fine, Melinda. You did really good.
My French is not the best.
Once again, we do have those two tornado warnings that we are continuing to watch. We still had thousands of people in the Belleville area and Cobourg area who were without power at one point, and this is going to continue as one of our major concerns when we have storms that have the Kingston warning. Thank you. We just were made aware that the Kingston tornado warning is out, and that's why you stay with a live stream, so you can get that news. Otherwise, you have to wait. And I just found out we're going an extra half hour, so that's the best. So this front is continuing to move out across the shores of Lake Ontario and is going to continue into southeastern Ontario. So even though an area like Kingston has been knocked out of a tornado warning, any area out ahead of that and east of that, you are still in the threat for it. Yeah,
Chris, you can see there at the end of this reel, you can see a bit of red popping up in this area. So that is National Weather Service in the state side that is monitoring these storms as well as they continue to track right across the international border, even throughout areas east of Lake Erie as well. Lots of storms that are just moving right along this cold front that continue to track through. Lots of energy to help them sustain right over the Great Lakes and continue to track eastward, looking at tornado watches spanning from New York and those states all the way in through Ontario, Eastern Ontario, in fact, and Quebec.
Yep, that's where that looks to be. That's where that continues as it goes into, and that's the front. The same cold front digs all the way down into the southern plains of the United States. The center of the low is over Hudson Bay, and that trough, which very easily could have surface features in the coming day into Friday, this still continues to sweep east. So when we take a look at a pressure tracker, Melinda, maybe I'll let you explain this as to what people are looking at through the colors.
Yeah, for sure. So the warmer colors, the reds, the yellows, a little bit of those lighter blues as well, that's pretty much highlighting low pressure. So low pressure is when we have more active weather in place, and when we look at those purples, where that circling high is, that's where we look at more warmer weather, depending on if it's coming from the north, you could be looking at more cooler polar air, or if it's coming from the south, lots more humidity. So when we see those warmer colors into the yellows and yellows and oranges, reds, that's indicating more active weather. Could be thunderstorms, and into the winter months as well, looking at snowfall with this.
What? You just wanted to see if I was paying attention.
Yeah, I love snow, so I had to bring it up at least once.
Thank you for that. I'm trying to check our Twitter feed, and you said, what? You got my attention.
Yeah, but this trough here as well could be
Right.
looking at more thunderstorm activity into Friday, possibly in through Saturday as well across the near times. Just checking the forecast a bit before I join. So we could be looking at more active weather into the weekend across eastern Canada. Chris.
Yes, the good news is behind the passage of that trough in the front, we're looking at a cleaner, clearer, cooler, drier air mass for areas around these places where we have the thunderstorm forecast staying in play. Forecast for Saturday, here it is. How about that? And Melinda, thanks for bringing that up. This is what I'm talking about. Temperatures going from the mid-30s, feeling into the high 30s, down to 20. And that's all it's going to feel like, just 20.
I mean, we should be a little bit grateful for 20 degrees, but it's going to be nice looking at clear skies, maybe some partly cloudy skies as well, but not much in terms of active weather for majority of southern Ontario.
I think a few people will probably be happy about that. So we have, like we said earlier, we have extended the live stream for this portion of the day to 5:30 because we do still see the potential for these storms as they continue to move east and push deeper into southeast Ontario. This out of Bolton, Ontario. I was on the phone with somebody from Bolton, Ontario earlier today, letting them know that I'm going to be in the middle of tracking storms. Obviously, this passed overhead, so I was justified in not giving them a call back. And this was the very heavy amounts of rain and the strong gusty winds from earlier today as well. This was the story for most people. Most saw the heavy rain and small hail, but those that were out ahead of the system, especially as we got deeper and deeper into the early evening or late afternoon, as we're doing right now, late afternoon into the early evening hours, this is where we start seeing a lot of the pressure that has built up within that warm sector, and all you need is that catalyst, that trigger, that hammer to pop the thunderstorms.
Yep, that's that elongated cold front that we talked about a couple minutes ago, spanning all the way from northern Quebec and through the mid-plains. So bringing quite a bit of active weather across many provinces and many states, Chris.
And Patrick is from our sister station, Meteorological Media, was on location earlier today. This is what he had to report from just outside of Montreal.
With all the humidity and the heat, well, this cold front is really developing a thunderstorm cell. As you can see, it's downpouring in some places. Right now, I'm standing here in Hudson, right next to the Ottawa River. I'd say the other side is about 200 yards, and it's hard to see. So thick is the rain. The size of the droplets are so big, I'm telling you, we're not much from seeing hail coming down, because this type of drops is really usually accompanied by. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that, but it's really possible over the next few hours.
Great stuff. Amazing report. Thanks a lot for that, Patrick, for sending that in from Meteo Media in Quebec, just outside of Montreal, looking across at the Ottawa River. That is very lucky that that's all he saw, because the cell that we saw sweeping through the region had the makings of some very severe weather. Now, that's not to say that did not happen. It just simply did not happen where he was standing at that particular moment in time. If you did have active weather, please do send it to us, tweet it at us, and we will let people know what happened where you are.
Yes, Chris. So we still have that tornado warning ongoing for La Minivere and Rouge River area, as issued by Environment Canada, damaging winds, large hail, and locally intense rainfall. So that's currently our only tornado warning in place across southern Quebec. The ones for eastern Ontario have been dropped. We still have tornado watches in place as well. Those are those areas located in brown on the map there, and the conditions are still very favorable to see severe storms and the potential for tornadoes, Chris. So that's going to continue later into our live coverage here at the Weather Network.
Yeah, live coverage is going to continue at least until 5:30 from this feed, and then looking to pick up a little bit later on as well. So do stay with us for that. There, just getting caught up on some of the things that are happening on Twitter right now, and still looking for those who have sent in photos or updates from where they are. Just getting another quick peek here, and nothing has changed as such. So taking a look at satellite and CAPE. So when we talk about CAPE, we're talking about that convective available potential energy, the potential energy, not a certainty, but it certainly has all the makings for, ooh, nice. By zooming in like that, taking a look at those billowing clouds, what are we looking at there, Melinda? Explain that.
So the clouds that are starting to billow and create more texture, that is all those cumulus that's rising in the atmosphere, creating those supercells. So that's where we're seeing more of those heavier rainfall, especially those large hail as well, because when we have those clouds, cumulonimbus clouds that continue to rise, it helps to create updrafts and downdrafts that produce hail. So especially across eastern Ontario and the Ottawa region, as well as portions of Quebec, we will continue to see these move through. We are having some questions from residents in Ottawa that would like to see more of a more zoomed in radar. So here we are looking at some rainfall moving through, the potential as well for lots of lightning on that system as well. It is more smaller in terms of the one that's over Montreal and the one moving just east of Kingston as well, but it could still be quite severe, producing some hail and some rainfall as well.
Thank you.
But once again, still into the tornado watch for Ottawa still.
Right. Tornado warning has just been issued for Mont Tremblant Park. Just brought to my attention
Alrighty.
from meteorologist Matthew Grinter. So we have Mont Tremblant Park that has been added to the tornado warning, keeping an eye on that. I'll let you take it from there.
I don't believe it has popped up quite yet here on our system here, so it can't really show, but it's pretty much that same system that continues to track eastward, east of Mont-Laurier. Continues to move through, but Environment Canada has stated that they are tracking a severe storm, just like we are, that could possibly be producing tornado. Looks like they have a bit of a rotation signature located on the radar, which is indicating a possible tornado. Damaging winds, large hail, and locally intense rainfall is also possible with this. So we did see quite a bit of hail in other regions of the province the past couple hours, and the potential is still there as well to see small to large size hail, Chris.
Yeah, that is always a especially when you were showing those billowing clouds and the rise in plumage of it, if you will. That's a lot of that updraft, and in there we are getting the formation. We showed it earlier, the science behind the formation of hail from Mark Robinson. That's what's happening there. That's the formation. Let's take a look at that. Bring us up to speed with the potential for hail, looking at this particular product now, Melinda.
Yep, so this is one of our models, surface hail diameter. So essentially what it's showing us is the greatest areas that could be looking at hail. If you get more into the darker colors, those blacks and grays within the purple there, could be looking at the more likely risk to see hail, and also the more larger in size as well. So especially for eastern sections of Ontario and throughout southern Quebec, just north of Ottawa and through sections of Quebec, looking at a bit more of a risk as we head into the evening hours.
Yeah, in the evening hours we are going to continue live here on the station. There are favorable conditions for rotating storms.
Yes, so this is a product that shows our supercell potential. Where are the areas that we could see supercells? So we did see something like supercells earlier in the day around the 401 corridor, and this is just showing what we could potentially be seeing in the future within the next few hours of some more developing just along that cold front, Chris.
Good stuff. Good to keep us up to speed with that. And these are the areas that we are going to, obviously, this is why we have extended from 5 into 5:30, is because there is that threat, there is that risk. You can see the tornado warning spot that is still on that Ontario and Quebec border. Or actually, no, it's deep into Quebec now that I take a quicker look at that. Yeah, just the monitor so far away from me. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue to push out into the eastern townships, and they now start to approach and cross the St. Lawrence as well, which is an interesting change of fate. The brown or the orange, whatever color you'd like to call that. Brown dress, orange dress, I'll leave it up to you. That is still tornado watches. That is a very, very large area of real estate for North America that is under a tornado watch at the exact same time.
Yes, Chris. Good news is areas across the Golden Horseshoe there, the GTA, the severe thunderstorm watches have been dropped, so that's good news. The cold front has moved through. We still have watches across the Niagara region, St. Catharines, and then areas east of Cobourg into Kingston, still in through Rockville as well. It looks like some of the tornado watches have dropped within the Bancroft area. So as the storm continues to progress eastward, as we are starting to see here, Environment Canada is continuing to issue severe thunderstorm watches and warnings in place, as well as the National Weather Service for the stateside storms as well. So it looks like we are going to start to see the storms move across the St. Lawrence within the next few hours and then impact the eastern townships of Quebec. In terms of our forecast, though, Chris, we still looking at the more severe possible storms across the eastern townships, but it's not the best area to see rotating storms. That's mostly eastern Ontario and southern Quebec.
Thank you for that. We are going to, but the thing is, Melinda, there is still the potential for tornadoes. Right. So if you are in a situation where a tornado warning has been issued, here's Tyler Hamilton with how to handle it.
Well, Canada, every single year we see dozens of tornadoes in this country. We might not be Tornado Alley, but they can occur from British Columbia all the way to Atlantic Canada, with most of them in the prairies and Ontario. But what happens? Let's walk you through a hypothetical tornadic situation. Environment Canada will normally issue a tornado watch with the potential for severe thunderstorms with at least one or more tornadoes to develop. Now, a tornado warning is different. I'm sure you've heard this sound before. That's a cue action is required. A tornado warning is when a tornado has been reported or visually seen by a certified storm spotter. So these are red flags to take action. So I picked a hypothetical warning area by Environment Canada and looked at past tracks from 1980 to 2009. Although a whole polygon, a whole warning region gets issued a tornado warning, damage is very, very rare and confined to generally under 500 meters in diameter. So it's why you wear a seatbelt every time you get in a car. You use the precautionary principle, because these F4 and F3 tornadoes from 1985, for example, are deadly and can have severe consequences. So if you have a basement, go to that region. But I'm using a simulation here in a household that does not have a basement. Get away from windows and walls, exterior walls. Go to an interior room like a closet or bathroom. Throw anything over yourself like a mattress and take cover. That's the safest place to be when a tornado is imminent.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot for that, Tyler. So Mark Robinson, where there was the potential of a tornado touchdown, again, not confirmed until Environment Canada confirms it, but these are just some videos that were sent in from Mark Robinson from his time earlier today in Brooklyn. He was there when just shortly after things had happened and saw the damage that was left behind. It was isolated and scattered in nature, and I'm sure that Environment Canada will be out surveying that. But this is just more of the day that he has had today. This is the day he's had, Melinda. I mean, the man's been busy.
Extremely busy, and I mean, if you wanted to go through Quebec, he could have been a bit more busy, but...
I suggested it, but he would had to have driven at F1 speeds, and we're not encouraging that of anybody. We'll leave that for the weekend race.
Yeah, because lots of this energy is moving, and it's moving very quickly as well. I actually am going to highlight that we are losing a lot of that instability for those areas that were once in the tornado warning, getting into the light yellows and starting to see it disappear a bit, because that cold front is pretty much going to be wiping it all away, wiping away the humidity, and we will be seeing a bit of a relief into our Friday and into the weekend as well. Temperatures back into the low 20s, but as the storm continues to track eastward and through the eastern townships of Quebec and in through the eastern states as well, continue to see these storms track right along that cold front, and still looking at the chance to see a tornado or two with such dynamic storms, Chris.
Yeah, that is, even within the potential for the tornado, the chance of severe thunderstorms is a big enough threat for many, because the severe thunderstorms still do come with strong wind. Obviously not the hundreds of kilometers per hour that a twister would provide, but still a 90 kilometer per hour wind or gust has the potential to knock fences down and throw things around. And as soon as and a lot of people, will snigger thinking, it's a garbage can got blown down the street. Well, that garbage can could also fly through somebody's front window.
Very true.
Anything that gets picked up and has the potential to become a projectile has the potential to do damage. And that is, Melinda, I got to tell you, that is a gnarly looking frontal passage right there. Is it possible for you within 25 minutes to maybe explain what we're looking at? Because that looks like a freight train of misery.
Oh yeah, Chris, you even mentioned those garbage cans flying down. We've seen trampolines that have flew from 1 yard over a couple of yards as well, with strong thunderstorms and strong winds associated with thunderstorms as well. So it all depends on the area you are in and what the dynamics are within our atmosphere. So currently here is our radar, what we're looking at. We are seeing this line of storms continue to make its way eastward. Here is that one just north of Kingston. It continues to move right over the river, so looks like more drier conditions are ahead. This radar is actually going back for the past hour, so from 4:06 to 5:06 currently, this is what we are seeing. As well, looks like Ottawa did have a bit of rain. It looks like a small thunderstorm developed there, but looks like it's starting to make its way out, continues moving eastward as well. Alexandria, that city there, town as well, looking as it continues to track east. So majority of this, Chris, a lot of these storms are continuing to move eastward, and this big cluster right over Montreal, that's moving in through the eastern townships. Let's move up in through Quebec City and in through Saguenay, looking at some thunderstorms. Not a lot of lightning, but still could be looking at heavy downpours and the potential for some small to large hail. But the main threat to see more severe storms and the risk for tornadoes as well are these areas located in the brown-orange color here on your screen.
Very good. Thanks for breaking that down. Wow, you did that. Wow. that was thorough. Well done. Do stay with us. We are live streaming and we're on television right now, but the live stream will continue until 5:30, meaning that we have an uninterrupted stream of information. If you're on television watching us, thank you so much. You will notice that periodically, however, we will drop out into a commercial, and it may drop out in the middle of a sentence. Again, we apologize for that. That is the nature of a live streaming when you're multi-purposing it for web or digital, and you're also using it for television. But that's also where we encourage you to pick one of these up. Everybody's got one, either your cell phone or a tablet or a laptop, and you can follow along with us on any wireless device. Having said that, again, I know for those of you that have been with us for the past 2 hours or more, I apologize for saying this again, but if you are in a warning area for severe thunderstorms, at the very least, it's good to have powered up wireless devices, because there is always the risk that your power will go out. And the only connection you will have to live uninterrupted news from Melinda and me is to have your cell phone or your tablet. Melinda, bring us up to speed. What are we looking at here?
So it's the same tornado warning that was issued by Environment Canada. It's still in effect for these areas, which I will mention very shortly. Here we go. La Miniviere and Rouge River area, and there is another area included in this as well. It is Mont-Tremblant Park area. So damaging winds, large hail, and locally intense rainfall are also possible, and it looks like they are seeing a bit of rotation on radar, indicating that we could be looking at a tornado. So if you are in this area, it's best to take shelter immediately. The best place to go is the lowest point in your house, or even to a basement. If not, the center of your living space without any windows or doors, because could be looking at flying debris, which is not too great in terms of protecting yourself, right, Chris?
No, absolutely. And venturing outside for any reason during a severe thunderstorm, especially when there's a warning in place, is ill-advised. I mean, it's silly. We do encourage people, if they do, and I saw a tweet from this earlier, but I would not be able to find it now. It's miles deep. But it was, what it was if you do have it after a storm has passed and you wanted to collect up some of the hail to give us an idea and take a photo and send it to us, have something that you can compare it against. Like we had a really good one earlier where it was a cluster of hailstones and there was a tuning. You could see how some were the same size and some were larger. So if you collect hail and you want to share it with us, give us something that we can compare it against, so we can see and gauge just how large or the hail is that you have collected and gathered. Melinda, why don't you walk them through the tornado watch and warning?
Yeah, for sure. So when Environment Canada issues a tornado watch, which they did quite early this morning, looks like conditions are very favorable for the development of severe storms like we have been seeing, supercells, and as well for the potential for tornadoes. So basically it means make sure you're not leaving your house at any point if you can, and stay inside, pay close attention. Keep watching us here on the Weather Network with all your details as well. And we will go live, especially when we have tornado warnings. That means that either a tornado has been reported, or there is clear evidence on the radar that that storm is rotating and it could potentially be producing a tornado.
Right. Fortunately, I can't show this on Twitter, but I will read this to you. It came from Hydro One. Hydro One tweeted out only minutes ago, and we retweeted it on the Weather Network. Our crews are responding to an outage that's affecting both Hydro One and Alexicon Energy customers as a result of the stormy weather that was in the area. We're making repairs and working together to restore power as quickly as possible. What they are talking about is I went back in and looked at the Alexicon Energy attachment, and it was the outages due to the storm in Belleville, Ontario, and that's what we were showing earlier. Let me see if I can make that larger. There it is. There we go. That is the storm that rolled through Belleville earlier, and as a result, there was an estimated upwards of 20,000 people who were without power during that event. So, just to let you know, for those who are affected by that, it is being worked on. Hydro One has tweeted out about it, as has, if you are with Lexicon Energy, they have also tweeted out about it as well. And that's again what we've been talking about, Melinda. The tornado warnings are obviously what grab headlines because they are very dangerous, but within a severe thunderstorm, when you have powerful wind, there is always the chance of a power outage, and certainly we're addressing that as well here.
Yeah, especially with the storm that moved over Belleville, like it was a very good chunky cell that moved across, and even when we have bigger cells and cells that continue to rise, it has the potential to create strong updrafts and downdrafts, and there we can see winds gusting upwards to 90 over 110 kilometers per hour that can definitely take out power, and as well as some flying debris. So when you hear or see the skies turning a bit darkish in color, or you hear thunder roar, it's best to head indoors and take cover immediately. Just want to highlight once again that we do have a tornado warning in effect for Quebec. Saint-Danton and Montreal Park area is included with this, as well as La Miniviere and Rouge River area. So still looking at damaging winds, as I mentioned, over 90 kilometers per hour, possible tornado as well as indicated on radar, and could be looking at some large hail with this, Chris.
I was just talking about Belleville. Let's go back to Belleville right now. I'm going to show this in just a quick second. This is from Cool 100. Cool 100. They tweeted out, Cool 100 FM. We're getting a lot of updates from listeners warning about falling trees, hydro poles, and debris on the road. So this is just some of what is coming out of the damage in Belleville. And I really want to thank see, this is the thing. I have a podcast here, This Day in Weather History, and there's been so many stories where television goes out, power goes out. The only way that the message gets through is through radio. That is why local radio is still critically important to infrastructure, because they at times may be the only, because if you're in your car, you're not going to be affected by a power outage. So you'll still be able to get news. For us on the Weather Network, as an example, you want to be on a cell phone so you can watch this live stream. But thanks to the folks at Cool 100 who wanted to show this picture that has already started to get sent in. More pictures like this of just some of the damage that is being reported now that it is safe to get out and survey in Belleville, Ontario, while, I mentioned a moment ago, they still try to get the power back on.
Yeah, Chris, I did run the radar back 2 hours, so we can see that cell that definitely moved through Belleville, and it could have most likely caused quite a bit of damage, as well as we saw there in that video you showed us, as well as power outages too. It was lots of copious amounts of lightning with that, over probably 100 lightning strikes at any given time, as well as some large hail and heavy downpours. I haven't seen any reports of localized flooding as yet, but I'm sure some areas could have experienced that today, Chris.
Earlier today, there was hail reported in Toronto. This is what we were seeing here. You can see that this was pea to marble-sized hail. And one of the things we were talking about with Kevin earlier was, the different sizes and what kind of damage it can do. And people, have a tendency to underestimate the pea to marble size. Marble size hail is that point where it will start shredding leaves off trees. So if you do have, obviously you're not going to bring all your plants in during a storm, but the marble-sized hail will likely obliterate them if it lasts long enough.
Especially if they are falling quite rapidly as well, depending on even the smallest size could, ruin crops and even bring down some trees as well.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. So the wind will definitely do the tree damage. There's no doubt about it. Let's go through that thunderstorm forecast again, Melinda.
Yeah, Chris. So we highlighted the areas in red that, Belleville was right on the brisk of that. So we did see some severe storms move through, especially through Kingston and in through Ottawa as well. We did have tornado warnings in place. We did mention those areas highlighted in red because the best chance for rotating storms. We continue to see rotating storms across just east of Mont Laurier as well. These storms are tracking eastward at around 75 kilometers per hour. Looks like the majority of the Golden Horseshoe and Cottage Country are in the clear for today as this cold front continues to sink on by, and it is moving in an eastward direction. So areas along the St. Lawrence and in through the eastern townships are next to see more severe storms, Chris.
I see. Excellent. I'm just trying to get back to what I was looking at with regards to our Twitter feed. We have, let's see what I've got here. Yeah, we still do have reports of power outages in the Belleville area, but as we mentioned earlier, they are working diligently to both Alexicon and Hydro One to get all of you back on. I just want to zip back over to the Weather Network. Oh, let's see if we can show this torrential rain, thunder, and lightning. This is in Welland, Niagara happening. He sent this in 13 minutes ago, so that's what was sent in to us from this Twitter follower to us, and we have already retweeted it. So that was, again, the tail end of that same prime cold front, the same front that is doing all the, that's bringing all the superior active weather into southeast Ontario. But Melinda, not to be undersold, we still have those lingering severe thunderstorm watches and warnings that continue to creep and crawl across the Niagara Peninsula.
Exactly, Chris. Let me just pull them up here for you. This is a current look at what we have going on in terms of severe thunderstorm watches and warnings. The Golden Horseshoe is out of that, and we are looking at mainly the Niagara region still in a severe thunderstorm watch, Kingston as well. A lot of the areas back west, like Bancroft and those areas, have the tornado watch has been dropped. No alerts in place for you. So we are looking at Perth, Petawawa, Ottawa, as well as Mont Laurier and areas in between, still looking at tornado watches in place, as well as that tornado warning as well, Chris.
And I want to thank Andy Harris. I didn't get a chance to earlier. Andy Harris is who sent in that video to us. Thank you so much for that. This is the ever-evolving tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings as they are now, as you probably see that as best as I can describe it. But the severe thunderstorm warnings look to all now be crossing the south of Lake Ontario. They're crossing the Ottawa River. They are now crossing to the eastern side of the St. Lawrence as well, just showing the progression of the frontal boundary through the illustration of the watches and warnings.
Exactly, Chris. Like you said, they're just very fast moving, over 75 kilometers per hour. And they will continue into the evening hours as well. The tornado risk is still there for majority of these areas, and we could potentially be looking at more severe storms and the risk for a tornado across the eastern townships of Quebec with these systems that continue to move along the cold front.
Excellent. All right, we continue live for at least another, I believe, 10 minutes. We're going to go till the bottom of the clock in the Eastern time zone, so we're going through to 5:30. You say supercells a lot, Melinda. Maybe explain the storm type that is known as the supercell. Explain the supercell to us.
Yeah, so basically a supercell is a very large, and it's a dangerous thunderstorm that has a rotating updraft. So basically, we have winds, and the winds that change with height, that means they're rotating. So whenever we have a stronger supercell, we rarely don't see supercells across Ontario and Quebec. It's mainly across the prairie provinces. They see that a lot, especially Tornado Alley down in the States as well. They typically see this. In Ontario and Quebec, we see a little lake breeze storms. We see just some thunderstorms as well, but they could be quite severe in nature, not to downplay it at all, especially along a cold front that moves through. But this event, lots of humidity, lots of heat, and especially that very elongated cold front. That's our trigger that we saw, and it's helping to pretty much spice things up within our atmosphere and help to bring this all together to create what we're looking at severe weather and those tornado warnings as well, Chris.
Great. I just want to throw this product up here, or this this graphic up. Tornado safety, just I'd be remiss if I didn't continue to repeat this, because that's why we are live streaming. Take shelter in a basement or the lowest level possible, wherever you happen to live. If you're in a one level, which would be an apartment or a condo building, go to an interior room, closet, or hallway, someplace where you're away from a window and there's a support structure. Get under a sturdy piece of furniture. Grab blankets to cover yourself with if you don't have anything nearby, because it's been so hot out. Go to the closet and get heavy blankets. Grab a duvet. Grab your winter coats from wherever they happen to be in your hallway closet or something. Anything to protect you from falling or flying debris. Melinda.
Exactly, Chris. I'm going to just zoom in here for the radar located with the warnings that we have going on as well. So still seeing that tornado warning in place across those areas in Quebec that we just mentioned, and according to the radar, we are looking at a bit of a hook, which indicates in terms of if we see a tornado, if the storm is rotating to produce a tornado, in fact. And I mean, the storm is not as big in size as we've seen across the Montreal area, the Kingston and Belleville area, but even a smaller storm like this can definitely produce a tornado, and it could produce heavy downpours, strong winds as well, and some small to large hail.
Warnings of what? Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so another one of our meteorologists, Matt Grinter, just wanted to let us know that all of the severe thunderstorm warnings have essentially come to an end in Ontario. They still continue on into Quebec, and Melinda, that's what I was showing you earlier, what we were talking about earlier. I was exemplifying that fact that it just looks like they're starting to slide south of Lake Ontario. Everything's starting to slide east of the Ottawa River, slide east of the St. Lawrence. Now, we still have enough day heating at only 5:25 p.m. with the sun doesn't set for another 4 hours. So there is still that threat for severe weather. We still have an outstanding tornado warning and tornado watches that continue in place. But the severe thunderstorm warnings for Ontario have been dropped. They do still stay in place, however, for areas of Quebec, and that does include metropolitan Montreal, by the way.
Exactly, Chris. This is one model that's showing the precipitation with this cold front. So it's pretty much cutting southern Ontario right in half. So areas behind it are looking at more cooler air. In fact, areas including the GTA still into that hot soupy mix there. But as this continues to track eastward, there we go, looking at those storms moving right east of the St. Lawrence as well, in through portions of the eastern townships, and majority of the storms are going to be moving stateside. So it looks like majority of us are in the clear. We could be looking at some storms on the backside of this cold front with this trough moving through. A trough is also a trigger for storms. So throughout early Friday morning, we could be looking at the risk there again, but it won't be as severe like today, Chris.
Just want to thank all of our television viewers who have been with us, patiently with us. This is our bottom of the hour, and the clock is ticking down to 4 minutes and 20 seconds and counting before I wrap it up here. Kim McDonald is coming up next, so that's easily something to look forward to. Let's be honest. It's been a ton of fun. Thank you, Melinda, for being here for this segment. Within the last 4 minutes, we do want to continue to track where the severe thunderstorms continue, and just to let you know, just another recap. We still have an outlying tornado warning that is in place, so we don't want to lose sight of that. Obviously, there it is right there. Part of that is in the Tremblant Park region as well. You can see how that is, again, as Melinda, you mentioned earlier, this is moving so quickly that this likely is either going to disappear or just relocate someplace further east.
Yeah, I know Kevin mentioned earlier that sometimes storms that dissipate can actually be fuel for other storms. So this could either strengthen or dissipate as it continues to move eastward, but we'll have to continue monitoring it here for you guys.
Yeah, and we certainly will. And with 3 minutes left, again, thank you to everybody who was following us on our live stream. I just want to update a couple of times. Just this scene that was, what are you doing, Kim? This scene out of Belleville, where the power continues. Let's go to this right now, if we could. This is just some of the damage. Cool 100 FM sent this photo in, showing the structural damage to their town. I want to thank them for sending that in. Another image I wanted to show, bring this up if we can. This was the heavy downpour of rain that also continue. I want to thank all of you who checked in on our Twitter feed and bringing us. This is what we were talking earlier with the storm spotters. You don't have to be a storm chaser. Just be there to show us, what's happening.